Hello, I'm Jules and welcome back to CAD Tips and Tricks with Smart Design. Today we're going to be talking about frames. In previous episodes of CAD Tips and Tricks, we had mentioned frames, but today we're going to talk about the importance of them and how to implement them in a meaningful way. As smart design engineers, we use frames to set up the initial geometry for what we're going to use to build the rest of the geometry off later. So for example, looking at the previous CAD from CAD Tips and Tricks episode 5 of the handle with a Y prong, I'm going to dive into the CAD and show you how I used my frames to create the geometry. Now when I talk about a frame, I'm talking about a sketch that is created on a datum plane that is corresponding to it. So for example, when I create this initial frame, my top frame, I am creating a sketch that is on the top datum. And then similarly for the side frame, I'm making a sketch that is on the side datum. Now looking a little bit deeper into this top frame, I have created a very simple sketch that allows me to create the geometry of the handle later on. And so we keep these sketches as simple as possible, mostly so that we can decrease the amount of complexity that there is, and also so that later on when we're looking through our model, we kind of understand what geometry is referencing other parts. So keeping these simple and using simple sketching tools like lines or arcs is preferred. If you need to create something that is an arc, I would start by using the most simple form of an arc, or like a 3-point tangent, and then start using more complex geometry if it doesn't satisfy what you're looking for. For example, you can move on to a conic. And if a conic still doesn't satisfy that, that's when you kind of go into your style tool and create more organic shapes. In keeping the geometry as simple as possible, we like to create frames for each section of our part. For example, we use those top and side frames to create the handle, but then as we build off additional geometry, such as the prong, we create side and top frames also for that geometry. And then this allows us to change the geometry separate from one another, but also change it together. And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. But additionally to the prong that I made, I also created an end cap by creating separate frames, a side and a top frame as well for that end cap, and then building the geometry off of that. So now we have our full part. One of the reasons why we really like frames is because it allows us to change our geometry very easily. If, for example, I would like to make this handle a little bit wider, I can go back to my original side frame, edit the geometry from 10 to say 15. And when we do that, everything propagates with it. So you could very easily change your geometry without having to rebuild the rest of your model. And again, you could do the same thing with the prong. Say you want to change the length of the prong, you can go into your original side frame and change that length. Say let's make it 35 instead of 30, and then everything will propagate with it. So this just makes it very easy to change your CAD very quickly as you start to develop it and kind of work out the design. Thank you for watching and see you at the next one.